Let us define what your file system is and what are the disadvantages that you are facing with the file system, how it is being overcome using database management system. In simple words, file system is a conventional way of storing the data in different storage mediums like hard disk, pen drive, magnetic tapes, DVDs, etc. When this file system is already available, why database management system has come into the picture? It is because it has got lots and lots of advantages when compared to file system. In this lecture, we are mainly focusing on the disadvantages of file system and how it is being overcome using database management system. Firstly, what is database management system? It is a software used for storing and retrieving the data from the database. The main goal of database management system is it provides an environment to the end users such that it is convenient and efficient in storing and accessing the data from the database. Now let us see the disadvantages of file system and how it is overcome using database management system. The first point under file system is the file system provides the details of data representation and storage of data, which means the data is stored in several directories. The directories in turn contain several folders, and folders may also include several files or data within it. This file system is mainly used for managing or arranging the data in several storage devices. It also does several operations like providing access to the files or how the data to be stored in different devices or how the data to be accessed by the users and all. Coming to database management system, it gives you an abstract view of data that hides the details, which means not all the users are allowed to view the entire data stored in the database. It provides the abstract view, which means which all data or the information is necessary to the users, only that information is provided to the users. All database administrator who is responsible in granting access to the users. So whichever data is essential to be viewed or to be accessed, only that part of data, only that part of data or the abstract view of data is displayed or being accessed by the different users, thereby hiding the important or the essential information. Coming to the next point under file system, we have data redundancy. Data redundancy is more, and here in DBMS, data redundancy is less. Firstly, what do we mean by redundancy? Redundancy is the duplication of data. When redundancy exists, then it leads to inconsistent data. Let me explain to you in clear way how this data redundancy leads to inconsistency problems when we are working with the file systems. This file includes the details of the employees working in several departments. Assume that we have 5 different employees and their employee ID is given. E-name represents employee name. And department gives you in which department each and every employee is working and what is the salary that they are drawing. Now the thing is how the redundancy leads to inconsistent problem. When I would like to insert any kind of record of a same employee, the file system is going to accept. For example, I'm copying the same data which is present in the first row. Would like to paste it in the second row. Right. I'm going to change accounts to ACC. Right. Now what happened? What did you notice? If you are storing the data in a file system, number of times you repeat in storing a record of an employee, it is going to accept. What sort of changes I made for this employee? Accounts is being renamed to ACC, right? When it is renamed to ACC, in which all places the accounts is present, that name is to be reflected in that different places also. But in this, when you are using this case of file systems, when you are trying to make some kind of modifications, those changes are not reflected in the same record of an employee. Thereby what happens? It leads to inconsistency as well as the redundancy or the duplication exists. When I am trying to insert Ashish record, a number of times the file system is accepting, thereby it increases the huge memory space. This will not happen when you are using database management system because the redundancy is not allowed. In DBMS, redundancy is less when compared to the file system. Now this is an example which I have shown you. Let us assume that Shravan is an employee who left the company now. If the same sort of employee information is present in different folders, then what happens? In every folder, you need to manually check whether the details of Shravan is present or not. If the details are present in 100 files which are located in some different locations, in every location you need to go there, open the file, and if the Shravan file, the Shravan record is found, then the information is to be deleted from that particular place. So how many times you're going to access the file and how many number of times you're going to remove the record of the Shravan? It may take huge amount of time. So thereby we can say that the accessing of file system is more when compared to accessing of files from the database management system. And if a record of a Shravan is deleted from one place, and if from all the other places, if the record is not deleted, then it leads to inconsistency. And this can be restricted up to some extent when database management system is used. Database management system will use several queries or SQL commands whenever the user is trying to insert the same copy of data into a file. We can provide several constraints in restricting the users in storing the duplicate data, whereas file system does not provide any such kind of constraints, and hence whenever you try to duplicate the data for n number of times, the file system is going to accept. So this is the main disadvantage of file system which can be overcome using database management system. Let us now move on to the next slide and find what are the disadvantages that we still face with the file system. It does not offer backup and recovery of data if it is lost, or some sort of data is lost when it is stored in some drive or in some other location of your computer system. Then in that case, it really becomes difficult to recover the data if it is lost. Coming to management system, it periodically takes backups and then it is going to synchronize the data up to date. Even though if the data is lost, it contains several recovery mechanisms which you are going to learn in the upcoming units. With the help of those recovery mechanisms, the data can be recovered. So this is the major advantage of using database management system over file system. And next, coming to the problem with the security. Security is important for the data even if it is stored in the file system or if the data is stored in the database management system. But assume that there is a file wherein which the data is to be accessed by only two persons. The two persons who have created the data are only having access to that particular data. They don't want the other users to perform any operations on the data. In that case, the file is locked and the password is to be known with those two persons. Right, let me take an example. The example of the employee details. Now, if two users wants to perform any kind of updations to this data that is stored in a file, those users can access and modify the data if and only if they are known with the password. I want the second user to restrict in accessing the salary details of the employee. Is this possible using file system? It is not possible. Though both the users wanted to access the data known with the password, if any of the column is to be restricted by the other user in accessing, then this case is not possible if it is stored in the file system. Whereas in database management system, if the user wants only certain details to be viewed, then the user is granted with those permission by the DBA so that the user is allowed to view or access only abstract part of the data. So this offering data integrity. Data integrity means imposing certain constraints or conditions on the data. Let me take an example and tell you what data integrity means. Assume that among the 100 records, I wanted to know which all employees are working in the sales department. Now, how you have to do this when this file is stored in a file system? We don't particularly have any sort of commands in order to retrieve the details of the employees that are working in one particular department. Instead, what we are going to do is you need to create some other file and store all the details of the employees who belongs to the sales department. So there is no other option if you want, but not with the case of database management system. Even though there are hundreds and thousands of employees working in different departments, and if I would like to know which all employees comes under the same department, this can be easily retrieved by just using a simple SQL queries. To data model, this will give you an idea of how the database system is going to look like once it is constructed or once it is built. In simple words, we can take an example of constructing a house. Necessary to know the requirements of the client. Accordingly, we are going to design the database and then it is implemented. So in conceptual data model, the requirements are gathered, they are analyzed, and then it is moved to the another phase. So the best example for this is ER model. ER model represents entity relationship model. Let us see. Entity is a thing which exists in the real world, or simply we can say that anything which has got a physical existence can be considered as an entity. These are represented in rectangular shape, and the attributes of the particular entry is represented using owl symbol. Relationship among two or more entities is represented using a rhombus symbol. So this is a best example of conceptual model. Coming to the next data model, which is known as representational model. The gathering of the requirements is already done in the conceptual level, and in the representational level, instead of focusing the physical structure of a database, here it is mainly representing the logical part of the database. And the third type of data model is a physical data model, which will actually tell you about the database, how it is being implemented.